I once thought Claire Donovan was my everything, and I gave her my heart wholeheartedly. But little did I know it was all a lie. One day, I overheard her friends asking, "You've been dating Caleb Morgan for so long. When are you two getting married?" She chuckled lightly and casually replied, "Who wants to marry him? It's not on my like." Later, I found out that she agreed to be with me only because of my brother. I didn't question her. I quietly packed my bags and left. But I soon heard that she was desperately asking around about my whereabouts. After working relentlessly on a project for 3 consecutive days, I came home exhausted, only to find that my house, which should have been brightly lit, was pitch dark. I searched the entire house, but couldn't find Claire Donovan. "Claire, where are you? Pick up the phone." I anxiously called her, but the phone just rang with no answer. My heart sank, and I called her friends, hoping they knew where she was. Just as I was about to hang up, I heard a noise from the hallway. I turned around, and there she was, Claire Donovan, looking impeccable as usual. She froze when she saw me, her eyes flashing with guilt for a brief moment before she smiled. "You're back. I thought you were going to stay at the office tonight." Seeing her return, I couldn't help but sigh in relief. "It's so late. Where have you been?" Just that simple question made her furrow her brow in displeasure. "Are you interrogating me? Don't I have any privacy while dating you?" Her accusation caught me off guard. I shook my head repeatedly. "No, I was just worried about you." As I spoke, she walked over to me playfully, wrapping her arm around mine. "Oh, I'm not blaming you. But since you're home, I guess that means the difficult project is all sorted out, right?" She had never shown interest in my work before, but ever since I took on that project, she kept asking me about it. I furrowed my brow, then spoke honestly. "Yes, I'll have time to be with you now." Claire Donovan's beautiful face was glowing under the lights, but there was something calculating in her dark eyes. A cold shiver ran through me, and I instinctively clenched my fists. "Caleb, could you let your brother handle this project? We all know you're capable, but Julian is having a tough time at the company with you around. I'm worried this could cause tension between you two." She said this with a look of concern, making it seem like she was thinking about me. But inside, I felt a coldness creep up. If I hadn't overheard her words last week, I might have believed her. That night at the KTV, I stood outside the door and overheard everything she said to her friends. When they asked her about marrying me after dating for so long, I was thrilled and had already imagined how I would propose and give her an unforgettable wedding. I anxiously awaited her answer, but to my shock, she casually said, "Who wants to marry him? It's not on my like." In that moment, I felt like I had fallen into an ice pit. My body chilled to the bone. She didn't like me. Then why was she with me? I desperately wanted to go inside and confront her. But the moment my hand touched the doorknob, I withdrew it. No, I had fought so hard for this. I couldn't destroy it myself. I fantasized that she might love someone else, but had chosen me anyway, and that surely meant she had some interest in me. I decided to give her another chance. But now, once again, she was speaking up for Julian Rodas, and a terrifying thought crossed my mind. Was the person she liked Julian Rodas? Realizing this, my heart felt as if it was being torn apart. It was like something was stuck in my throat, making it hard to breathe or swallow. And I felt an intense discomfort. "Caleb Morgan, will you listen to me? I'm doing this for your own good. Do you really want to risk ruining your relationship with your brother? Besides, Julian has always been weak. So, what's wrong with giving him a little more space?" As she spoke, I felt a bitter ache in my heart. I had heard this my whole life. Everyone said Julian Rodas was sickly and pitiful, that I should be more considerate of him. Even my mother pitied him. When I aced every exam, her face didn't show happiness but disdain. She scolded me for being too competitive, for having a sharp mind, and for not being considerate of others, thinking I was intentionally trying to provoke Julian Rodas. Because Julian was often sick and missed class, his grades were poor. Later, my mother had him take a break from school and hired a tutor for one-on-one lessons at home. But he still couldn't keep up with the pace of the lessons, and learning was hard for him. My mother told me to help him more. I did as I was told, bringing books to him, but he threw the books at my forehead, sitting at his desk with an arrogant, condescending look in his eyes. I ignored him and opened the book for myself. Before I could speak, he suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed, the chair crashing to the floor with a loud sound. I froze for a moment, then rushed to help him up. But by then, people outside had already rushed in. Then I heard him crying loudly. Why am I so stupid? Caleb taught me to study, but I still can't learn. Mom, don't blame him. It's all because I'm too dumb that he got angry. I didn't. It wasn't me. I desperately wanted to explain, but before I could, my mother stormed over and slapped me across the face. The stinging pain made my face tingle, and the sound of the slap deafened me for a moment, drowning the world in silence. Caleb Morgan, you really disappoint me. No matter what, Julian is still your brother. You're healthy, complete, and have everything, and yet you can't even accept him. If I had known you were this kind of person, I shouldn't have given birth to you. My mother scolded me with wide, angry eyes, while Julian Rhodes in her arms wore a victorious smile. That smile was so glaring, so cold. I was 10 years old that year. After being scolded, I was locked in the small, dark room. It was at that time that Claire Donovan appeared. She came into my life like a warm light. She would bring me food when I was so hungry I almost fainted and comfort me when I was being scolded. It was she who said she would be with me for life. So when I achieved success, I treated her even better. I thought it was all worth it. But reality is rarely so kind. Claire, are you really doing this for me? My voice was trembling, and asking this took all my strength, but I still secretly hoped for her answer. Claire Donovan froze for a moment, and after half a minute of silence, she replied, Of course. Who else would I be doing this for? Her answer didn't make me feel any better. Instead, it made my chest feel heavier. Claire, what are you hesitating about? Is this such a difficult question? I stared at her, trying to read something from her face, but she was impatient, shaking off my hand and scolding me. If you don't agree, then just don't. Stop acting like an old woman. You're not even a man. Claire Donovan was angry, and for the first time, I didn't try to comfort her. Of course, I didn't hand over the project to Julian Rhodes. She was so mad she left, and she didn't come back for a whole week. The next time she called me was at midnight. Unfortunately, I was having a stomach attack, sweating and writhing in pain. When I answered the phone, I was still faintly hoping for her comforting words. But to my surprise, it was Julian Rhodes's voice on the other end. Caleb, Claire's sleeping here. Are you coming to pick her up? His arrogant tone was full of provocation, making my chest tighten with bitterness. Julian Rhodes, is this fun for you? I had intended to ask him if provoking me was entertaining, but instead, he replied, It's okay. I mean, compared to my other women, she's a bit lacking, but she's still your girlfriend, so that's something. Hearing this, I tightly gripped my phone, my eyes tearing as I hoarsely asked, Where are you? Julian RH sent me an address. When I arrived, I realized it was the largest bar in the city. Before entering, I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the emotions building up inside me. The bar was full of vibrant lights, and many people were dancing, letting loose and venting their emotions. Some were even kissing openly. I pushed through the crowd, eagerly searching for that familiar figure. At that moment, a loud cheer erupted from the stage. I couldn't help but feel that Claire Donovan was there. With a nervous heart, I weaved through the crowd, making my way to the front row. As I got closer, I could feel my blood rush, my whole body trembling, and my heart seemed to plummet into an icy pit. Right in front of me, Claire Donovan was passionately kissing Julian Rhodes on stage, her face glowing with joy. Julian Rhodes, who had previously shown no interest, seemed to have deepened the kiss when he saw me. I hid in the darkness, the surrounding noise of cheers and laughter fading away as I couldn't hear a thing. The next moment, Claire Donovan broke the kiss, smiling as she pulled away from his embrace. As she turned around, our eyes met. At that moment, I finally understood why she had been so protective of Julian Rhodes. Because the person she truly liked was him. But before, she wasn't like this. She understood me, and she knew that there was no brotherly bond between Julian and me. She even scolded him to comfort me. But now, in front of everyone, she was kissing him so intimately, her eyes seemingly filled with only him, no one else. My heart ached so badly that it felt numb. I looked at her in silence, and she, flustered, took a step back, distancing herself from Julian Rodas. The pain in my stomach became unbearable. I could no longer hold on. With sweat dripping down my face, I turned and walked away. Kayla Morgan, wait for me. Let me explain. Walking out of the bar, the heavy emotions started to dissipate with the cool autumn breeze. I pressed my hand to my stomach, standing weakly in place with dry lips. All right, say it. She seemed to grow guilty, not daring to look me in the eye. And after a while, she impatiently said, we were just playing a dare game. I lost and had to accept a punishment. Julian was just helping me to avoid embarrassment. Can you stop looking at me like I'm a criminal? I didn't say anything. I just looked at her calmly. Claire Donovan seemed annoyed, glaring at me. I've explained myself. What more do you want? At that moment, I started to consider breaking up with her. However, before I could say anything, the world suddenly plunged into darkness, and then I completely lost consciousness. Before I passed out, I heard Claire Donovan's voice. She said, "Hey, don't pretend to be dead." It wasn't me. When I woke up again, all I could see was white. After a while, I realized I was in a hospital room. Sir, you're awake. This is the payment receipt. I won't charge you extra. Just pay me according to the amount on the receipt. A young man, wearing a bar staff uniform, handed me the receipt. I stared at him for a while before recognizing him as the doorman from the bar. Thank you. My voice was hoarse because of dryness, and when I spoke, it seemed to pull on my throat, leaving a faint taste of blood. Did you bring me to the hospital? The young man silently rolled his eyes. Yeah, the woman with you saw you fall and ran away faster than a ghost. She can't be your girlfriend, right? I silently repeated the words, girlfriend, in my mind, and a bitter feeling surged in my numb heart. Girlfriend, does it count? I gave everything, all my sincerity. But in the end, it was just one of his words that mattered more. After a moment of silence, I shook my head. No, not anymore. If it was, you should break up with her quickly. You're already left hanging like this, and you'll probably have even worse luck living with someone like her. He seemed to notice my bad mood. So, after saying that, he had me scan the QR code to pay him. I'm leaving. You took up my work time, and I'm getting deducted for it. After muttering that, he left with an air of nonchalance. Later, I had someone look in his background and found out that he had dropped out of school earlier this year due to his family's debts. I saw his past grades, and he was always in the top 3 in his class. A kid like that, so hardworking, shouldn't be trapped by the cruel reality. Besides, he helped me and didn't take advantage of me. That kind of character is rare. Dylan Hayes, I'll sponsor this kid's education, but it must be anonymous. My information cannot be exposed. Yes, Mr. Morgan, but there's some turmoil inside the company lately. Do you need me to step in and handle it? No need. Julian Rodas isn't going to stir up much trouble. He's smart, but all his cleverness is used to scheme against women, and he knows nothing about managing a company. That's why I could become the CEO of the Morgan Group, even without being favored. My mother is on Julian Rhodes's side, but only as long as it doesn't damage her own interests. Julian Rhodes doesn't understand her intentions, and he's bent on taking the CEO position from me. He even had the nerve to say she was biased against him, but after she had a talk with him, he never said that again. However, the disdain in his eyes only grew. Looking back, I couldn't help but feel a headache. When I got home, I planned to take a sleeping pill to rest more, but when I opened the drawer at the bedside, I immediately noticed something was wrong. I usually organize my drawers so I could tell immediately if anything changed. I looked at the pills pressed under the project plan, and my eyes shifted slightly. Waves of turbulence surged in my heart. The next day, when I rushed to the company, Julian Rhodes was already there. He walked with his head held high, pride oozing from him, clearly confident about the business discussion ahead. Kayla Morgan, if I land this project, it means you're completely abandoned. I want you to crawl out of my company in disgrace. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes, and he looked like a wolf, ready to dominate the grasslands. I didn't bother to respond to his words and went straight to my office. After a while, an angry shout came from outside, and the office door was kicked open. Caleb Morgan, are you messing with me? He stormed in, grabbed my collar, and glared at me, looking nothing like the confident man from before. What am I messing with you about? This project plan has problems. Why didn't you say anything? You did this on purpose to make me screw up, right? His gritted teeth and furious expression were a bit disgusting, but I found it somewhat amusing. Bro, you made the project plan. How would I know if there were any problems? Julian Rhodes paused for a moment, and whispers from outside the door could be heard. The door wasn't closed, and many people were staring at the office. He turned around and yelled, "What are you looking at? If you keep staring, get out and pack up." After that, he lost it completely, swinging his hand and smashing everything on the desk, including the cheap couple mug Claire Donovan had given me last year. The mug even had our photo on it. What was even more ironic was that under the pressure, the crack in the mug split the photo right in half, as if it symbolized us. Our relationship was already beyond repair. Julian Rhodes threw a tantrum for a long time, smashing everything in the office. I silently watched him. After he left, Dylan Hayes came in, and I didn't miss the look of surprise in his eyes. "Did you call someone to clean up?" "Yes." He paused, then noticed the broken couple mug on the floor. He furrowed his brows and said, "Mr. Morgan, about this mug? Throw it away too." He hesitated for a moment, then brought in the cleaning staff to restore the office to its original state. It looked restored, but I knew some things had already changed. That night, after some socializing, I returned home when suddenly a shoe flew straight at me. I didn't have time to dodge, and it hit me right on the forehead. Before I could say anything, Claire Donovan started yelling at me fiercely. "Kayla Morgan, what do you mean by this? Are you plotting against me? Or have you been on guard against me all along?" Her eyes were bloodshot, and she looked like she had just been crying. If this had been before, I might have been moved and tried to comfort her. But now, I didn't have a heart for it. I stared straight at the woman in front of me, who was glaring at me with malice. My heart suddenly clenched tightly. Sure enough, the warmth I had once hoped for never came true. No one would truly love me. "Claire Donovan, let's break up." She froze for a moment, surprise flashing in her eyes, as if she hadn't expected me to say that just over this. "You want to break up with me? Caleb Morgan, don't be ungrateful. Everything I did was to stabilize your brotherhood. What good does it do you to fall out with your family?" It didn't do any good, but they were the ones who gave up on me first. I pressed my lips shut and said nothing. At that moment, my phone suddenly rang. Seeing the caller ID, a suffocating feeling hit me hard. Claire Donovan cursed me for being ungrateful and left. I took the call and hurried to the Morgan family residence. As soon as I stepped inside, harsh yelling came from within. "Got too cocky. Even your own family schemes against you. Why doesn't he just die? If he died sooner, none of this would have happened." The voice belonged to my mother. Under her extreme favoritism, I once took her hair to do a DNA test. I thought maybe I wasn't her biological son, which was why she treated me that way. But reality slapped me hard. Our paternity test results were 99%. She was indeed my biological mother who gave birth to me and raised me. No sooner had I appeared in front of them than my mother slapped me hard, harder than ever before, and my face quickly burned with the pain and swelling. She took good care of herself and still looked elegant and charming. When facing Julian Rhodes, she couldn't hide her smile. But when facing me, all I saw was hatred and disgust. Now her glare was fierce and no longer restrained by grace. "Caleb Morgan, if anything happens to my Julian, I will never forgive you." Her angry shout made me realize that Julian Rhodes had jumped from the building after losing the project. He jumped down in his room. I didn't see the scene, but it was chilling enough. No wonder there were traces of cleaning by the door. My whole body trembled, and I almost lost my balance. My mother packed some of his clothes and looked at me coldly. "This is your fault, and you have to apologize. You think being CEO of the Morgan Group makes you important? Don't forget, the real power is still in your father's hands." When she said that last sentence, her tone was filled with bitterness, like a warning. Since the real power isn't in my hands, they could take it back whenever they want. I swallowed the bitterness in my heart, my eyes stinging with disappointment. What I've always wanted was never a company. I just wanted a family of my own. But no one understands that. My mother seemed afraid I would run away and follow me step by step. When we arrived at the hospital, we coincidentally met two policemen escorting an injured man. They followed him closely without leaving his side. I glanced back and paused for a moment. My mother's gaze at me was not much different from the policeman's. Maybe in her eyes, I was no different from that man under supervision. Julian Rodas was not seriously injured. The window of his room faced the flower bed below, so when he fell, he only hurt his leg. Nothing major, so he was placed in a regular ward. Just as we arrived at his room's door, we heard him crying out in agony while talking to his father. "Why are you still saving me? In your eyes, I'm a useless piece of trash who can't do anything right. I'm worse than Kayla Morgan at everything. People like me don't deserve to live in this world." Before my father could respond, my mother anxiously pushed the door open. "You're not trash, Julian. You'll always be the best in your mother's heart." She held Julian Rodas. Her eyes were red. When she looked at me, her hatred only intensified. My father sighed heavily. Why does a family have to fall apart like this? My father was always a tall, silent man in my memories. His face carried a natural authority without anger. I was afraid of him and rarely talked to him. Aside from work, when we met privately, we only exchanged greetings, no small talk. His detachment carried coldness. It made me afraid to hope for any so-called fatherly love. Are we the ones causing trouble? Look at the good son you raised, scheming even against his own brother. I've seen poison before, but never anything this toxic. She repeated what I heard at home earlier with a hateful expression, then said, "If I'd known you'd turn out like this, I might as well have just strangled you at birth." Enough! What nonsense are you spouting? My father finally got angry, his lips pressed tight as he glared at her. I stood there, feeling like I didn't belong in this family. The loneliness in my heart grew until it was almost unbearable. After much thought, I swallowed the bitterness and said, "I voluntarily resigned as executive CEO of the Morgan Group." The news of my resignation spread quickly, and there were considerable changes within the company. My father's disappointed eyes and his words still echoed in my mind. "Are you really going to give up this position at such a critical time? Have you thought about the consequences when you said that?" I had been thinking about it long before, but I never dared to speak out. Julian Rodas is a naturally suspicious person who wouldn't tolerate anyone close to me. Not long after I left the company, I heard that he had fired my former assistant and secretary who had been following me. I said nothing about it. Perhaps this was the best outcome for both Julian Rodas and them. I looked up at the brilliant blue sky and clouds, feeling extremely at ease. No more racing against time every day. No more sharp conflicts in the workplace. Suddenly, the world felt so beautiful. Once I made up my mind, I began processing my paperwork to go abroad. There was nothing here worth staying for. No people or things to hold on to. Staying any longer would only trap me in the past. It was better to try living for myself. Soon, I sold the villa in Lyuan. As for Claire Donovan's belongings, I directly called a local courier to send them back to her home. If I was going to cut ties, I shouldn't leave any loose ends. After handling these matters, I left the country without wasting a moment. Paris was a place I had once hoped to visit. Back then, I had dreamed of bringing Claire Donovan here for our honeymoon. I had even specially arranged an apartment here for that purpose. But unfortunately, things had changed. I came alone. What I didn't expect was that on the very first day of moving in, drama unfolded. The tenant living in my house, my high school desk mate, had just mistaken me for a thief and sent me to the police station. "I'm so sorry. I really didn't know this house was yours." I rubbed my shoulder, which she had twisted harshly earlier, gasping slightly. She had been quite rough, and my shoulder still hurt a little, probably bruised. "It's okay," I muttered, then realized. Wait, since when was my house rented out? That was the apartment I had specially reserved for our honeymoon. How could it be rented out? She froze for a moment and quickly explained. I then learned she had been tricked. Someone had rented the apartment to her in my name. I paid a year's rent, and I've only lived here 2 months. If she gets caught, can I get my money back? Leah Monroe angrily slammed the table. The local police said they would handle the matter and told her to go home and wait. After leaving the station, Leah Monroe was clearly less energetic and looked very downcast. A young girl in a foreign country cannot guarantee her safety. I was about to offer her a place to stay when she pitifully asked, "Caleb Morgan, can I stay at your place a little longer? I haven't been paid this month, and I have almost no money." Her clear eyes carried an irresistible plea. I reluctantly nodded. Fortunately, the apartment was big enough. Having one more person wouldn't affect me. Besides, she said she was willing to take on household chores in lieu of rent, which saved me some time. At first, I thought it would be awkward since we hadn't seen each other for 2 or 3 years. But she didn't care at all. She worked long hours, but still remembered to clean the house, and sometimes even cooked lunch and dinner when she had free time. "Kayla Morgan, why are you here? Shouldn't you be busy preparing for your wedding now?" she timidly asked across the dining table, biting her chopsticks, her bright eyes showing cautiousness. We broke up. This wasn't a difficult thing to say, and I didn't intend to hide it from her. But unexpectedly, she paused for quite a while upon hearing the news and asked uncertainly, "Really? Today's not April Fool's Day." I looked confused. Logically, we didn't have much connection. Why would she be so interested in my affairs? Could it be she knew Claire Donovan? Thinking that, I pursed my lips and asked, "Do you know Claire Donovan?" She looked a little uncomfortable and lowered her head to eat, avoiding the topic. After I finished washing up and returned to my room, I just picked up my phone and saw a video sent by Assistant Hayes. Curious, I opened it and saw Claire Donovan's figure clearly in the video. She looked like she was losing her mind, grabbing people everywhere, trying to say something. But when faced with a furious man suddenly rushing toward her, no one stopped to listen. They just pushed her away and left quickly. "General Manager Morgan, Miss Donovan has been asking around for you several times. Should I tell her where you are?" "No need. Don't tell me anything about her anymore." Watching the crazy woman in the video, I felt a deep sigh. The Claire Donovan now was very different from the proud woman she used to be. She had lost all her former arrogance. I didn't want to know what exactly happened to bring her to this state. I only knew that ever since that night, she was seen flirtatiously kissing Julian Rhodes. We had no relationship anymore. I wanted to start my own company. And with this conviction, I began moving steadily toward that goal. Because of this, I often neglected my meals, many times just eating fast food casually before diving back into work. One day, after an intense work schedule, I was awakened in the middle of the night by stomach pain. The cramps came in waves, and the pain made me break out in cold sweat. I barely managed to walk out of my room, thinking I could drink some warm water to ease the discomfort. But as I reached the kitchen, I was greeted by a delicious aroma. I followed the smell and found Leah Monroe eating noodles, slurping loudly. Before I could say anything, another spasm hit my stomach, and my face turned pale. I had to lean against the door to keep from collapsing. Leah Monroe immediately rushed over. "Caleb Morgan, are you okay?" She seemed really concerned, and the usual playful expression on her face was gone, replaced by a look of genuine worry. Before I passed out, a strange thought crossed my mind. She looked better when she smiled. When I woke up again, everything was white, and there was warmth by my side. I turned my head and saw Leah Monroe sleeping beside me, her small white hand resting gently on my cold hand. A surge of indescribable emotions filled my heart. My stomach issues had developed shortly after taking over the Morgan Group. But back then, I had no one by my side and had to endure it alone. Even when Claire Donovan came into my life, she never noticed, or perhaps her mind was never truly on me. I moved my fingers slightly, and Leah Monroe suddenly woke up, standing up and looking around in confusion. I was surprised and looked up, and she apologized awkwardly. "Sorry, I thought you were still getting in for." A warm feeling surged through me, and I smiled faintly, sincerely thanking her. From then on, Leah Monroe would always cook me stomach-soothing porridge and even send me reminders around meal times. Her intentions were sincere and enthusiastic, and it became impossible for me to ignore her. There was also a strange feeling growing between us, though I couldn't tell when it started. Just as I was planning to have a proper conversation with her about it, my father suddenly called. "You've been gone for so long. It's time to come back and visit." His words were simple, but they seemed difficult for him to say. After speaking, I heard a heavy coughing sound. I remained silent for a long time and didn't reply immediately. Leah Monroe, who had been quietly eating beside me, spoke up. Why don't you go back and see? It sounds like your father is not doing well. Caleb Morgan, don't do something you'll regret. I raised my eyes and looked at Leah Monroe, who sat across from me. Her bright face showed sincerity with a hint of concern in her expression. I took a deep breath, letting the complicated emotions in my heart spread, and said in a deep voice, "All right." I really listened to her advice. I had a return ticket booked, and she became quieter after that. Sometimes I noticed her trying to say something, but stopping midway. Several times I caught her stealing glances at me. Leah Monroe, let's talk. She nervously walked over to the sofa, sitting upright across from me. Go ahead. What are you worried about? I didn't want to misunderstand her, so I decided to let her speak first. That way, even if I misunderstood her, it wouldn't make things awkward the next time we met. She hesitated for a moment before saying, "Will you come back after you leave?" The company had just started, and I had no intention of giving up. So without hesitation, I nodded. "I'll be back. I'm just going to visit my parents." I chuckled bitterly, thinking that maybe they didn't even want to see me. The call might have just been a test. But despite all that, I still had to go back. Just like Leah Monroe said, I couldn't do something I would regret. "I'll wait for you to come back here," Leah Monroe said firmly, her eyes full of determination. Hearing that, warmth surged in my heart. I realized that my feelings had shifted, and it felt like there was another reason to come back. 3 days later, I boarded a flight back home. Looking at the homemade sandwich and coffee beside me, I couldn't help but smile slightly. It was breakfast Leah Monroe had given me before I left. I took a bite and was pleasantly surprised at how good it tasted. However, I didn't expect that as soon as I got off the plane and walked into the airport lobby, I would see a familiar figure. Not far away, Claire Donovan stood in a white dress, the same one she wore on our first date. Her delicate fair face was the same as before, but there was a hint of fatigue in her expression. "Caleb Morgan, welcome back." Facing her again, my heart no longer stirred. I had thought our past together would be hard to forget, but after spending months abroad, each time I thought back to it, I almost forgot what she even looked like. Claire Donovan was all smiles, holding out a bright bouquet of roses. I frowned and took a step back, saying indifferently, "Thank you for the gesture, but I'm allergic to pollen." In the past, I was the one who picked out the flowers for her. Every time I bought flowers, I would have an allergic reaction, breaking out in hives. But because she liked them, I quietly endured it. A trace of disappointment crossed Claire Donovan's eyes as she stood there, her gaze fixed on me. I took a deep breath and pushed my suitcase past her. "Caleb Morgan, can we talk?" "Miss Donovan, we've already broken up." I actively avoided her approach and immediately got into the taxi parked outside the airport. Claire Donovan, seeing this, quickly ran over. "Caleb Morgan, I didn't agree to break up." "I don't want to be apart from you," she shouted anxiously. But I gave her a cold glance and signaled the driver to leave. The journey from the airport to my house would take about 2 hours. During this time, I contacted Dylan Hayes to discuss the work I needed him to do overseas. We had just finalized the collaboration when he said, "General Manager Morgan, is there truly no chance left with Miss Donovan?" I remained silent for a long moment. Maybe he thought I was angry, so he hurriedly added, "General Manager Morgan, I shouldn't be meddling in your personal life, but I have to say, Miss Donovan isn't a good match for you. After you left, she got together with Julian Rodas, but it seems like he was just using her." Shortly after announcing it, there were rumors about him, and she was seen coming out of the gynecology department looking pale. He had even personally witnessed Claire Donovan coming out of the hospital. Hearing about what happened while I was away didn't stir any emotion in me. Everyone makes their own choices, and we are adults who need to take responsibility for them. Just as I was about to tell him that it didn't concern me, Leah Monroe sent me a message. "Have you arrived?" She might have been keeping an eye on the time, and thinking of this made my heart soften slightly. I replied to her soon. She sent me a picture of her home. It was clean, tidy, and filled with warmth. "I'm waiting for you to come back. Don't forget to bring some local specialties with you when you do." Okay. I looked at the message for a little longer and then soon arrived at my destination. I wiped the smile from my face and got out of the car. Standing in front of the familiar yet unfamiliar villa, I felt an unexpected twinge in my heart. Although I didn't have good memories here, this was still the place where I had lived since I was a child. Second young master, you're back. The old master is waiting for you in his room. Hearing the housekeeper's words, I was puzzled. The old man usually spends most of his time in the study, not in his room. With this question in my mind, I went upstairs and reached my father's room. I opened the door and was shocked. A few months ago, my father had been full of life. But in just half a year, he had become a frail, elderly man, lying in bed and relying on a breathing machine to stay alive. Father, I collected my emotions and walked in. I'm back. His eyes were filled with some relief. He tried to sit up, but couldn't, looking somewhat helpless. I maintained a distance and didn't rush to help him. I knew they didn't like me getting too close, so why embarrass myself? Father gasped heavily, his weary face filled with pleading. Caleb, I've missed you so much. Please come back. Without hesitation, I rejected him decisively, saying that I was doing well overseas and had no intention of coming back. The light in his eyes immediately dimmed. It's my fault. All my fault. If only. Father, you need to rest and take care of your health. I interrupted his emotional words. Some wounds once inflicted can never be healed. I had longed for the love and care that others had from their parents. But as I grew older, that feeling gradually faded away. As they had said before, perhaps I was a cold-blooded person, unable to be moved by them. At that moment, my mother walked in with some medicine. Upon seeing me, she could hardly hide her excitement. Caleb, you're finally back. Mom, she reached out to touch me, but I subtly avoided her touch, nodding slightly and saying, Mother. Her expression froze for a moment, and there was a trace of bitterness in her eyes. Why do you sound so distant? Mother, I've been calling you that for 20 years. At my words, her body trembled. She probably forgot that when I first called her mom in the way Julian Rodas did, she had scolded me viciously, refusing to acknowledge me as her son. That's why I changed how I addressed her. I quickly walked around the house, preparing to leave. My mother rushed over, desperately trying to stop me. This is your home. Where are you going? I shook my head slightly, remaining calm as I said, Mother, I haven't had a home here for a long time. Being here will only make you unhappy. I'm leaving now. You can contact my assistant if you need anything. As I spoke, I was about to give her Dylan Hayes' number, but when I tried to send it, I received a red exclamation mark instead. She clearly noticed and became flustered, quickly turning to find her phone, stammering, I'll pull you out of the blacklist right away. I watched her hurry back and sighed silently. Grabbing my suitcase, I walked out of the house. She seemed to realize what was happening and chased after me, her voice tinged with desperation. Caleb, I was wrong. Can you please not leave? I called the driver to wait outside the villa area. Once I left the house, I got into the car. I ignored the figure chasing me and muttered, Let's go. The reason I came back wasn't just to visit them, but also to bring Dylan Hayes back. He had been working with me for years, and I knew his abilities well. Fortunately, when I asked him, he agreed right away. During our conversation, I came to understand why my father and mother had changed. Julian Rodas wasn't cut out for managing the company. Under his leadership, the Morgan Group was on the verge of collapse, and he didn't even realize it. He was so obsessed with his own pleasures that he repeatedly made my father so angry he had to be hospitalized. This was all expected, and I wasn't surprised at all. I didn't even feel the need to intervene. So, I didn't stay in the country long before heading back. When I returned, I happened to find Leah Monroe sitting on the couch watching TV with an unfinished cup of instant noodles on the coffee table. She had a chip in her mouth, staring blankly at the screen as she looked at me. I couldn't help but laugh and push my suitcase toward her. See if these are what you wanted. I had only planned to stay for 2 or 3 days, so I only packed 2 sets of clothes, and the rest of the space was filled with snacks she liked. It took quite a bit of time to get all of these things onto the plane. She glanced at the items, jumped up excitedly, and shouted, Ah, Kayla Morgan, I love you so much. You really get me. Hearing this, I froze in place. The girl in front of me had a bright smile on her face, clearly overflowing with happiness. She was so happy that she rushed over and hugged me. As she got closer, I caught a faint fragrance and for a moment, I forgot to push her away. Caleb Morgan, since you understand me so well, how about I give you a reward? She playfully narrowed her eyes at me, her ears tinged with red. My heart started racing uncontrollably as she said this, and I hoarsely asked, "What?" Leah Monroe stood on tiptoe, and with a touch of shyness, she gently kissed me on the cheek. "I'll reward you with a girlfriend."